Welcome, everyone. I am Tessa Mero, Senior Developer Advocate at Cloudinary, and I will be presenting on developer relations KPIs. Thank you for all the people that are joining. This has been a very important topic for me, and I've been spending a lot of time on this area. The inspiration behind putting together this presentation stemmed from when I led a developer relations community event in Seattle on October 2019, where we all had the discussion of measuring metrics. We found that there wasn't really any resources available and not a lot of teams knew how to properly measure KPIs. And since 2019, I've been doing a lot of studying on KPIs. I also attended a 2-day workshop led by OKR professionals on just the basics of OKRs and have been managing the OKRs on a team level at my company. And because of the success the KPIs has provided for better alignment through our team, through the company, I am a firm believer on how important it is to advocate to other developer relations teams or community teams that you should work with OKRs or at least track some metrics in some way or another. Here's a little bit of background of who I am as a person. For the past decade, I've been involved in building developer communities, organizing conferences and meetups, and speaking at events around the world. The Joomla community, PHP community, API community, Vue.js, Jamstack, even like developer relations type of community. Previous to being a developer advocate, I taught programming at a local college and was a developer prior to that. And on my free time, I read about NFTs. I play video games with my family. I read more about NFTs. I'm always cooking at mostly like restaurant quality or restaurant inspired foods, especially in my smoker. And I also like to read about NFTs. So if you're obsessed with NFTs, definitely send me a message. And I will keep up with the Q&A tab as well. So I'll, after every couple slides, I will hit the tab and see if anyone has questions. So feel free to ask questions anytime. Here's a few things I'll be going over. Why focus on KPIs? What are OKRs? So I can't really like jump straight into talking about DevRel KPIs because there might be a percentage of the audience where like this term may be brand new. And I'll go into developer relations metrics, which leads to creating the best KPIs for your team, and a little bit about KPI alignment. And we will do a KPI exercise at the end, which we can openly discuss. I created a poll on Twitter that had about 47 responses, more than I expected, asking if their developer relations teams track KPIs. Almost 49% says no, and 42% says yes. I'm not sure about the other as there was no comment, but you know how it goes with Twitter surveys. This was just more for fun to see how much engagement the survey has, but it's enough information to know an estimate of how teams are involved in KPIs. Why focus on KPIs? So a few questions or comments. What is preventing your team from achieving success? What resources do you need to succeed? Your DevRel team work impacts the company, but it's not understood internally, like getting company buy-in. Your project aligns with department or company level objectives, and you'd like transparency for better collaboration. But this list can go on. This by itself can be like a whole presentation on its own. But everyone has their own question or own thoughts on why they are focusing on KPIs or why they need to track KPIs. I have a big water bottle full of ice. I love cold water. OKRs, if you're not familiar with the term, and I'm going to go in depth on objectives and key results, which is what it stands for, objective, key, results. What are the goals of creating an OKR? Before we can jump into DevRel related OKRs, I want to make sure this is clear. The goal of this session is so you are able to walk away from this, being able to build out your team's objectives and key results, OKRs, and help your team strategically align focus within your organization. OKRs are actionable, aspirational, and inspirational. You want your objective to be actionable. It's a statement that the OKR owner is ready to take action on making the objective happen. To be actionable, start with a verb to make your objective actionable. Launch, maybe you're launching a program. Create, engage. Engage with what? To grow, to establish. Establishing, becoming the greatest at what? To become, to make. Drive. Maybe you're driving more engagements, driving more registrations. To improve, align. You're aligning strategically on what? To expand, advance, and the list can go on. There's a lot of different words you can use. Make your objective aspirational. Aspirational goals could be 10x goals. It can be a goal that you're not sure how to get there and not sure what resources are needed to get there. You may have to roll over from quarter to quarter or even years, but it's something you are working towards. Until you set a big aspirational goal, you don't know exactly what you'll need. And when you do, you can start planning and executing over time with your quarterly key results to be able to achieve your big goal. And it doesn't have to be aspirational goals, it can be committed goals, but I'll stick with aspirational goals as an example because that's the only ones that I like to create on my end. It makes it more fun. If you set a crazy, ambitious goal and miss it, you'll still achieve something remarkable. A quote by Larry Page. If you measure what matters and measure something aspirational, only good could come out of it. Objectives should be meaningful in a way that will inspire the team to achieve these goals. An example objective that I'm going to be working with on here, and I just kind of threw this out, to provide the best developer experience when onboarding our API. So an objective would look like the to provide section would be the actionable statement. To provide the best developer experience would be aspirational because you want to become the best. It's a big goal. And the whole statement would be the meaningful part. So I kind of broke that down in that way. Let's jump into key results, which is the other half of OKRs, objectives and key results. Objective, again, the same one, to provide the best developer experience when onboarding our API. So an example key result would be meet with 20 different third-party developers to get feedback using our API by the end of quarter 3. So the focus part would be meet with. You're focusing on meeting with others. And then there's time bound. Your key results needs to have a time. Some people, like I've seen a lot of examples online, and there's a lot of examples that don't use a time, but it really helps with achieving goals. It's good to have a deadline for each key results, like I mentioned, to make it achievable. And if you don't complete the key result by the deadline, then you roll it over to the next quarter, and then you determine what resources are needed to get to this result. So by the end of quarter 3, or it doesn't even have to be quarter 3, it can be like by the end of October or by October 15th. So you can kind of break things down even more. There's a question, is there a difference between leading and lagging OKRs? I have not heard of that term yet. I still have a lot to learn on this area, but I'm assuming you mean delayed OKRs that's being moved over. So it depends on prioritizing. But if things aren't done on time, that's completely fine. It just means more resources are needed, or maybe it's not a priority. So you want to make it measurable. And this is where the metrics come in. Meet with 20 developers. The number 20 is the measurable number, of course. Once you collect, let's say, 10 different feedback by the middle of quarter 3, your KPI status would be at 50% and on time. This would make it easy to give management updates on progress that is meaningful to the company, assuming your OKRs align with company or department level goals. And remember, if it's behind on schedule, behind the schedule, it's not a bad thing at all. Aggressive. I'm not a fan of that word, but it's one of the things that describe key results. Meet with to get feedback. So that's like the aggressive part. This is the statement that is telling you, this is what we are going to do. So key results in summary should have focus, be time bound, measurable, and aggressive. I'm looking at the Q&A. And thank you for getting that clarified. A few more tips on KPIs. When creating your team level goals, remember that they can be either top down, which is set by management, or bottom up, which is set by team members. When you create an OKR, you can also set the owner to be outside your team. If you believe that this is a goal and an objective that needs to happen, but it's not something that your team has the resources for, it's fine to create that anyways. And then, you can have these conversations internally and figure out who can be responsible for that object or OKR. Objectives and key results. And this is a mistake that is made by a lot of teams. They're turning their OKRs into a to-do list. It should not be a to-do list. It should be, between 3 to 5 objectives, very meaningful objectives. There should be 3 to 5 achievable key results. If you are having to create more than 5, then you may need to refocus your goals to make it more achievable. If you are using a KPI tool that allows you to connect an objective and directly align it to another objective, you can do it through team level, department level, or company level. You don't even have to align your objective at all. I'm checking the Q&A. Okay, we're good there. Here are different areas of measurements that I've collected through reading several dozens of DevRel metric articles. And I think I've read every single thing I can find on the entire internet related to developer relations KPIs and developer relations metrics. And compared to 2 years ago, there wasn't a lot available 2 years ago, but now there's more and more content being published that's really helping to build success around developer relations and community. So it comes down to awareness, outreach, relationships, new signups, documentation. And I also added a section for if you're like a really small company, for your product, your community, and support. And then you can kind of recategorize that into smaller chunks as well if you want to figure out how to build your objectives. Breaking it down one section at a time, here are some collected data from each section. And this is not something I'm just like making up and throwing information. This is public information that's kind of spread out in a lot of different areas. So I collected as much information as I can. Some examples with awareness and outreach would be the number of mentions in a blog post, maybe number of mentions in sponsorships, in webinars or events, or even number of social media responses, traffic to your posts and views, maybe it's shown on Google Analytics or wherever you track this information. Keep note that metrics to be tracked may be different based on what kind of services you provide and what your company goals are. These examples I'm showing are just some examples like generically through the entire developer relations community. You said, do we have a link to the presentation? Yes, I will type that now. I think I successfully uploaded. I did it pretty late last night, so hopefully I didn't add any new slides between then and now. KPIs with relationships. It can include a number of developer feedback given to you. Maybe you were at a conference and a developer wanted to chat with you about suggestions that they have on one of your documentation pages that may be a bit confusing, that can easily be clarified with some updates. This is where you can take this feedback to the documentation team. It is important to track this kind of metrics as it can be helpful in the long run to tie success back to your developer relations team. Because here's an example, and I hear this, okay, so this is um, something that is meaningful to share. I talk to a lot of people in developer relations, and the biggest issue is like new tech companies are created, and then the first thing they do is they put together a developer relations team, and then they don't really have a plan for the DevRel team. They kind of like let them take over, and and then it comes to the point where after they scale out and grow, and years down the line, they look at the team and they're like, it looks like you're using, your team is very expensive and this is costing us X amount of money. Like, where is this revenue showing up? Like, where is this value that you're providing for our company? And we need to cut back on budget, and we're trying to figure out a team to remove or people to lay off or etc. And there has been times where developer relations is the first to get cut. So that's why I advocate KPIs. So back to the slide. Um, you can track. Maybe you want to track the number of resolutions made from developer feedback. These solutions could be in a Discord server, or maybe it's through a Twitter DM. Track everything, anything you can. Even if you don't have like a professional tool, just throw it all on a document and just have data to prove. Tracking number of interactions with developers and your internal DevRel team, plus maybe social media likes and the amount of time spent on specific pages on your developer portal or whatever pages that's important to your team. And finally, the number of leads you can connect to other internal teams to accomplish company goals. And this is something I do very often. This could lead to future integrations and partnerships, which is a great way to align your team with the business development department and a really good way to prove value to external developers on using your tool or product or software or whatever it is. Someone asked a question, how often do you track metrics? Weekly, monthly? I actually, I should have added a slide. So I will just speak on that now. And I should have added a section on that because that is an important thing to know. I think it's based on what does the team want? How often do they meet? Like if you just track KPIs and it's just one person and no one really follows up with it, it doesn't really have any meaning to it. I think it makes sense. Some people, maybe on management level, maybe I think meeting monthly makes sense. Meeting weekly is not fun. It's not a fun topic. I would say it's least of the fun. Like personally, I enjoy it because I enjoy being responsible for things that everyone else doesn't like to be responsible for. And I like to learn about things that are like complicated or new or something that not everyone understands, which is why I'm so huge into NFTs. My favorite area and stuff to learn. But monthly makes sense, and keeping it updated every month and presenting it to internal stakeholders or managements that care. KPIs with signups. You can track the number of published content talking about external developers or the number of published content on integrating your product. There's also the number of interactions in the comments or content. You can monitor the number of content views, liked posts, traffic level based on what was published, and the time spent on those pages. You can also track the number of signups versus the active signup ratio. If it's hard to track KPIs for signups when it comes to revenue because you have a free developer account, and that's a concern that, a lot of these tech companies have like a free trial or a free developer account, try figuring out the percentage of developers who start from a free account and end up upgrading later to a paid plan. If there are 100 new registrations and 10 of them upgrade their plan at $10 a month, and that's $100 a month in revenue. So you can potentially track this as a KPI, however you want to break out the numbers for that. But you're only using this as a guesstimate, and an estimated KPI is better than no KPI. And that has to be like I would make that an official quote if I can. I almost want to look that up to see if anyone's quoted that. KPIs with documentation. You can track the number of frequently asked questions and documenting it somewhere. This should help with relieving resources with the technical support team. There's a lot more that can be added to this area, but then this presentation can easily become a full day presentation. I'm checking the Q&A. Yes, tracking it on a weekly basis, updating it on a weekly basis, and then reporting it on a monthly basis. That's what I would suggest, but everyone can do it differently. And this is a conversation I've had with others before, like, oh, we don't need to track KPIs. We're a small company. And if you work for a very small company, and when I say small, maybe it's under 30 employees, tracking KPIs may not be the biggest priority, especially when everyone works closely together and is well aligned with each team's objectives. As the company scales, this may not be the case anymore. You'll need an easier way for cross-team alignment and transparency. I started at my company 2.5 years ago. I think we had maybe around 100 employees, and I think we're at 380, maybe getting closer to 400 employees 2.5 years later. So things grow very fast, and then KPIs become more important. Even if KPIs are not your priority, maybe starting out simple and create simple guides to use for your product for each stage of their journey. Monitor the number of signups based on the guides being released at different times. And again, a lot of my research, I'd like to give credit to the entire developer relations community. To this day, there's a lot of resources and information that helps developer relations team. KPIs with your developer product can include tracking the number of pull requests submitted, opened, accepted, and the length of time that it is open. Another really important metric is the number of minutes it takes them to make their first API request. If they've spent more than an hour trying to figure out how to onboard your API for the first time, would you assume they may end up trying another competitor product? How well do you really know your developer onboarding time? Have you done any developer experience testing with this and tracked results? So that's a question to think about. And there's a lot of developer experience tools out there that exists. I didn't include a section on that on my slides. But I think if you just Google developer experience metrics or developer experience tracking or testing or something like that, you should be able to find it. Moving into KPIs with community. This can get very long and has unlimited potential of data you can collect. Keep in mind, there are also a lot of tools that I'll mention soon that can easily pull all of this for you automatically and create analytics report for you. You can track the number of engaging developers, number of contributors, maintainers, engagements via all platforms, customers engaged versus non-engaged, number of high-value leads, number of content, and percentage of growth rate, which is measured by the annual growth rate times the percentage of signups times the ARR from products multiplied by 100. This is a calculation I found while researching, so I'd have to triple check on that. And here is a very important one that is easily missed by most DevRel teams. And that's why it's important to align your team and collaborate with all other teams, because a lot of the things that you're tracking is important to move this information between teams. Being able to get data from the technical support team and tracking the decreased number of questions being asked over time. This metric would tie into many other metrics, such as documenting common questions or even building your developer community in a way where the community grows organically and they will start answering questions for each other rather than tech support handling all requests. So doing these things can really prove saving on resources and time in the future. If you're wondering what kind of tool is good for a company level way of tracking OKRs, Ally.io is a metric management tool that we use. I haven't tried any other tools, so I cannot recommend if there is a better alternative. If your company uses a KPI management tool, please post it in the chat what you use so others can research what is best for them. This isn't specific to DevRel, but I will mention soon interesting tools for tracking DevRel metrics. So this is like an OKR tool for alignment with all other teams and departments throughout the company. With that, I want to mention about getting company buy-in, which can be difficult, especially when you aren't a small company or if you were just acquired. For example, when I brought up a project to help increase registrations for self-service developers, it first required having my team understand the value in building this interactive app. I put together a presentation to show upper management on what value this app brings, how it aligns with our team's objectives, and how it aligns directly to our company goals that executives really care about. I was easily able to secure the full budget needed to have this app created. On top of that, this objective ended up being aligned with a company level objective, which means the progress of this initiative's updates is looked at on an executive management level and one of the many priorities. When presenting your strategic initiatives, use terms that are easily understood by different departments. If you are trying to get company buy-in, that involves more levels outside of your department. Using acronyms and terms that only your team understands may not be very helpful. So keep that in mind. And the reason why I'm emphasizing on this is because I started out our KPIs in kind of developer language that we understand what we're creating. And I reworded every single objective in a way where, I can have anyone on the street come and read and understand what the meaning of that objective is. So making that easy to understand makes more people understand the value of it. So keep that in mind. 100%. I want to repeat it again, but you get my point. Let me check the Q&A tab. How often do you validate KPIs? How often do you check if the metrics you're currently looking into are meaningful for a company or if expected tolerated deviations should be reconsidered? How often do you validate KPIs? Validate as in check to see if things are progressing or being completed. I think since, like for me personally, the most important KPIs are the ones that are not on time. So the ones that are running behind is what needs attention and figure out like, is this something that we should spend time making a priority, or is this something that needs to be pushed out later? And it does not mean that we are not doing our job and we're running behind. And the second part of your question, how often do you check if metrics you're currently looking into are meaningful for the company, if deviation should be reconsidered? So bringing up the conversation, like if there's an OKR meeting that happens and you're giving your summary report and you're saying, you know, we're behind on schedule, we're 5% and the quarter's almost complete, then you have that conversation. What is needed? Why was it deviated? Why was there focus on another area? Why wasn't there any resources put into this? And it just opens up conversation. And the next question is thoughts on RAG rating system. Is that question in terms of the rating that every OKR provides? Like on ally.io, it gives a rating between 0 and 10 based on what it thinks what the success of the OKRs. And you can manually change it based on what you think it deserves. So I don't like the automatic rating system. I like to rate what we think is right. How to ensure that the OKRs are not stressing the team members. I will share that in a slide very soon. Good KPI dashboard platforms. Ally.io, I wouldn't say it's good. It's the only one I know how to use. So I'll keep it at that. And it's very complicated to learn too. So if anyone has another recommendation of what they use that they'd recommend, please drop it in chat. Okay, next slide. Also, I've got a lot of information on DevRel, KPIs.com. One thing that gets mixed up very often is developer marketing versus developer relations. The amount of times I get message saying, hey, I heard you're in developer marketing. I'd love for you to do a presentation. Or we're hiring a developer marketer and I see you have a lot of experience. It's just two very different areas, and developer relations get confused as marketing. As seen in the example, based on a recent survey, the biggest KPIs tracked for DevRel KPIs are registered developer accounts and developer satisfaction score. For developer marketing, it's views from pages or videos and unique visitors to their website. You can also, and like I mentioned, devrel-kpis.com, I gathered a lot of interesting resources. So that's like a community gathered resource site. One of the concerns people have with updating KPIs is that if they are behind on KPIs, they think it shows that they are not performing well. And it is absolutely not the case. And that's like the dread that a lot of people have, like having to team level individuals, everyone on the team, you have to update your KPIs. And I'm going to share with you a funny TikTok video that I found on LinkedIn yesterday. You have to read the subtitles as the sound doesn't come through, and ignore the bad language. I don't like putting any kind of bad language on my slides, but the point is at the very end of the 1 minute video. It's only 1 minute. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play on it. Oh, I didn't even put it on full screen, of course. Okay, full screen and then play. So at the end, it made me laugh, and I'm like, oh, I don't think I can put this in my presentation, and I ended up throwing it on here. But that's one thing that keeps people from wanting to update KPIs, because I'll try to find the link and send it, but it makes them feel bad, because when everything they're working on says behind or delayed, like, of course you would feel bad. You would feel like you're not performing individually as a person. And if you are a KPI owner and you're behind on schedule, it means it needs to be brought up in discussion to determine what resources are needed to move forward with those goals. And when I say resources, it can mean a number of things, such as budget, more hires, or maybe it wasn't really a priority that quarter and it needs to be moved to another time. If you're a manager and you want to use KPIs as a performance measurement for individuals, don't. Do not do that. It is definitely not the way to do it. It is not the goal of OKRs. It is not the goal of KPI. Oh, okay. Let's see. How do I get back to the next? When I hit next, no more video. Okay. So there are many tools to track developer relations or even developer experience related KPIs. The most known and loved tool is Orbit, which was created by individuals who's been involved in the developer relations community and have been working very closely with the community for feedback to build this product. And this whole product is built based on community developer relations feedback, which is amazing. Another tool is by Tirja Analytics. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but I just recently discovered that in a blog post that mentions that a lot. So Orbit.love, is a tool for measuring your community across any platform. And by the way, I have no affiliation with anything I am mentioning in my slides for company names. I believe they are doing really great work in the developer relations community and deserve a few slides mentioning their tool. Orbit gathers all of the data that is important to you using many different platforms that developer communities use. So there are like marketing related social media management type of metrics tools out there, but this one is very specific to what all developers are participating in or part of, especially with developer tools also. Although there are a lot of useful features all around, it's the analytics, and that is what's going to help you achieve results for your KPIs. So you can automate a lot of your stuff without having to go back and manually count and manually track everything. Try to find a tool and make your work more efficient. Then there is by Tirja Analytics, which I mentioned, and it focuses on measuring the most valuable users, contributors, and maintainers from any developer audience. And like I said, I haven't looked too much into this, but definitely check out all the options that are available out there. And there's not a lot for specifically developer relations. As soon as you start creating and managing your team's KPIs, you will never look at a KPI the same again. So this slide is a bit off topic, but I was asked prior to this session if I can mention ways to find community leaders. And I threw up a couple ideas, but if you'd like to share the best ways for others to recruit or network with like senior community managers, senior developer advocates, developer advocate manager, or people that build and run communities, try to drop a link in the chat. But one thing I've discovered is captains of communities. I put the Discord link there, and it's also on my slide share. And look up the DevRel hashtag on Twitter, or try to find and follow leaders on LinkedIn and Twitter communities. I'm in a lot of community leader related communities, but the thing is they're all like invite only or internal type of groups. So if you're trying to get into these communities or to network, and when you don't have that kind of role, it's a little more difficult. But definitely share any way for them to network. Being part of the CMX community, that is huge. It's all community leaders and being involved in going to these events and meeting people. How to recruit community leaders without coming across as spam. Um, okay, so this might be TMI for me to say on a recorded presentation, but I get about 3 to 5 of those emails on LinkedIn or email or Twitter DM every single day, every day. And when you've been doing developer advocacy or community leadership for over 5 years, it's easy to get a lot of that um, contact. Nikita, oh, okay, he said wrong window. Um, so when you reach out to someone and you're trying to recruit them, make it very personal. If it looks like a copy and paste, usually I don't respond. Um, if they're a recruiter and they make it very personal and brief, I may respond, but I don't like the copy paste. And I know they're trying to reach out to hundreds of people at a time, but you'll get a better response rate making it more personal and showing that and reading their LinkedIn and experience, because a lot of these roles are like lower level roles than I currently have. So it's like did you even looked at my LinkedIn? So make sure you understand this person and put in the time. And you'll be surprised with how many people will be responsive to you on the recruitment side of things. But I'm sure that can be a whole nother presentation on its own as well. So that's my summary. So this is the last section. We're going to go ahead and jump into a KPI exercise. And this was hard to figure out, like, how exactly do I want to do this? Should I do it as a breakout session? Should I do this as an exercise? So I decided to create 3 options, and you only pick one options out of the 3. Option 1 is a personal OKR goal, and I wrote down the objective already. I just kind of made one up. Achieve the cleanest home using the least resources. Option 2, if this is something you celebrate with Christmas or know what Santa Claus is, this is Santa Claus's OKR. Deliver Christmas presents to every good child in the world. And then there's option 3. You can create your own objective. It can be personal, it can be business, whatever you choose to do. And when you pick an option, also add key results. And you can like create one key result, or you can create 3 or 5 or whatever. And I will wait like 5-10 minutes, or maybe I'll just have a discussion in real time and then share your results in the chat, and then we can just have a fun conversation. And you can make it as funny or serious as you want. You can make it super funny. You can make it like purely as a joke. So as long as it's respectful to all. And go ahead and begin. Maybe I'll try to think of some stuff and throw it in chat. So option 1, I made up a key result for achieve the cleanest home using the least resources. Determine 5 different do-it-yourself cleaning product recipes by the end of the week, because that would achieve the objective of using the least resources. I could have worded the objective better, but I kind of just threw whatever I thought of first. And you can find the presentation here. And you don't have to do like 3 key results. You can just do 1 for whatever, just so people can be familiar with how it's constructed as a sentence. And the breakdown of a key result, remember it's being aggressive, you're doing something. There's a time factor, as part of it. There's a number associated, maybe a percentage or maybe an integer value, so it can be tracked. I just ate an ice cube. Let me check the Q&A. Gina asks, is it better to recruit via LinkedIn or GitHub or their personal website? I think you have to keep in mind that if you're recruiting them, so are hundreds of other companies, keeping it, but everyone has a personal opinion on this. And I think keeping it clean on LinkedIn is good. Unless you make a very personal message and you're contacting them through their personal contact form and you're not messaging anyone else except, you know, a key few individuals, and make that clear. Make them feel that value that you are seeing. Do you have any personal OKRs? I had that conversation with a friend recently. Like, what are your personal OKRs? Oh, okay. What are my goals? What are my goals in life? So when I mentioned with that meme, you'll never look at OKRs again or KPIs again, I'm starting to think in KPIs when I think of goals I want to, aspirational goals. And like I mentioned, it doesn't have to be aspirational. It can be something that, you know, it has to be done. But I'm just a fond of aspiration. Don't miss the community memes. Oh, I want to click the link. Hopefully it doesn't mess up the screen share. Community meme, a collection of community memes curated by community folks. Brought to you by Orbit, and I'm advocating them. They do so much for the community. I can't even keep track of what they're doing, but they're doing a lot. It's definitely follow what Orbit is doing. Aaron, excited that Santa's workshop is taking their business practices to the next level. I really didn't want to use that as an example, but it was just like burning inside of me, like, you must put that down. But you have to also make this globally accessible for, you know, all religions and countries to understand as well. But that's why I made different options. One is like personal, one is, you know, funny, and then one is whatever you want it to be. KPI, ratio of TV watching time to cleaning time. Yes, definitely should be an OKR. I'm reading all the messages. Susie says, I think all good community managers deserve a present or two in December. Oh, decrease in screen hours on social platforms. So Craig says, number 3, be getting feedback from 100 early access coaches once per month by the end of December. Half from meetup sources, half from direct solicitation for early access invites of reviewers of similar software. Yeah, that would work. You can also keep your key result shorter and simple, and then when you open that up, if you're using a tool, you can describe it more. David Spink says, happy to share our OKR process doc that we use internally with any of you. I would definitely take that advice and learn from everyone. Everyone's going to have a different everyone's going to have a different way of sharing their knowledge and experience based on, you know, what kind of experience that led them to working with KPIs. So it's all going to be slightly different. I think of KPIs as key promise indicators. I like that. I don't think it's key performance indicators. I 100% agree with you, V. It is key promise indicators. It needs to be changed. Let's petition. Daniela says, number 2, improve in a 10% the number of kids having a good behavior engaged during the year. Okay, I guess that works for that specific objective. But I think by the end of the year would be more clear. But that's good. I like that. Venia, if I said your name correctly, I wanted to see this, but definitely going to be a recording to come back to. That's fine. For the first OKR, to not spend more than 15 minutes on a single task while cleaning. Try your best to optimize. And I think it's still good to have a key result be attached to time. So by when? Spend the week. Maybe you're trying to achieve that goal of not spending more than 15 minutes on a single task throughout the week, and then measure your performance in a 7-day period. Create your own goal. Increase company participation in our customer community. Increase company participation. I think, like, okay, so with an objective, when you're creating an objective, when it's like a company level, it needs to be more like inspirational. But as it goes down to department level or team level, you don't really have to focus on inspiration, but I like to make it inspiring, because then it brings more interest in other teams wanting to understand your KPIs more. So you can maybe add increase company participation in our customer community. Why does that matter? Why is that important? To answer the question why should end your sentence. Key result 1, 30% of employees register for community accounts by end of 2021. Key result 2, 300 posts authored by non-community team employees. Key result 3, present 3 stories of team engaging with customers successfully at December all hands. By the December all hands, for the December all hands. Okay, so they would understand that. I love trusting your gut to include Santa and the TikTok in your presentation. And I come from a corporate company before, so I just have this automatic way of like, must keep everything very professional. And I'm more of a thinker before a speaker, so I had to think a lot about that. David says we should write an article on CMX sharing how we run our OKR. Oh, looks like we're hitting at exactly 2 o'clock. So I'm not sure if this has disconnected or not. OKR 1 for option 1, determine 5 different, oh, that was me, okay.
Hi, everyone. We're not going to get disconnected, but
this can keep going on forever. It's a lot of fun. Everyone has a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, I love all the examples. Love that you use the TikTok video and Santa as an example. Super fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're all very, very great. I'm going to drop my Twitter. So definitely, I like to follow community leaders. So I will follow anyone who follows me. And I actively watch Twitter. I cut down my posts a lot, but I love checking Twitter. And I always check my Twitter DMs. Yes,
that's
thank
awesome.
you,
That's
everyone.
how we connected. Love that.
Ooh, CMX has a TikTok now.
Awesome. Tessa, is there anything else that you wanted to wrap up with?
Um, I just had like a credits, resources, and just a way to contact me. So I should have threw that thank you slide up.
Perfect. Thank you so much for conducting this session. I learned so much, and I think the folks here did as well. Thank you so much to everybody who participated with sharing those examples and all the great questions that we got throughout the Q&A. Really, really great to see. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.